What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back. It is me, of course, yours truly, Sugi JRPG here, and today I'm gonna be reviewing Final Fantasy X-2 HD Remaster for PC. And obviously the PC version is quite similar to PS4 and PS3 and PlayStation Vita versions, although there are some couple of differences in terms of settings where you can enhance graphics or turn off shadows. There's been more tweaking options there, but in terms of gameplay features, it's pretty much the same thing. And Final Fantasy X-2 is a sequel to Final Fantasy X, which I've also reviewed on my channel. Go check that review out. And I really recommend playing that first, because it really makes zero sense to play X-2, without playing 10, because a lot of it is kind of wrapping up that cliffhanger ending in 10 and also kind of giving fan service. You just won't be able to appreciate the nostalgia and other features of X-2 without playing the first game. I mean, it just emotionally doesn't have the same meaning, at least in my case. And it is, in many ways, very similar to 10, but in a lot of ways it's different. So let's address that a bit. So first of all, the combat system has been changed. It's a lot more faster than in 10, and it's no longer really turn-based. It's active time battle, very akin to 7, 8, and 9. And also, it has a job system. So instead of having this whole spear grid where everybody can learn everything, now you have these dress spears, which are essentially a job system. And you're able to have these garment grids, which is a spear grid of sorts, where you install a certain dress spear and you can, change middle of combat to a specific dress spear, which has a set of, certain abilities. And also these garment grids can give you certain passive bonuses like extra strength, magic defense, and etc., or poison touch or poison proof, all of these, classic things. It's a lot more, as I said, it's fast-paced and it's quite refreshing if you immediately start playing X2 after 10, and it has definitely a lot more strategy orientated in things. And I would say that there's not so much like abusing factors. In 10, the Aeons, the summons were really powerful in terms of at least the mainline bosses that you would go through, that you would pretty much stomp if you had the Magus sisters, for example. It made everything so goddamn easy, really. There's no bosses would really have any chance hitting on you. In this game, even if you are like over leveled a bit, if you use a bad strategy or bad mix or blend of different dress spears with all of your 3 characters, you're gonna get your ass whipped. So you have to be careful in that sense. And in one way, it's kind of annoying. If you really grind, you might still be kind of behind. And well, in other ways, there's the challenge. And in terms of like overall content inside the game, there is quite a lot of it. I mean, it's a very long game in the end of the day. I mean, I spent like 57 hours, and this is not the 100% run. I think my game completion was 80%. So in this game, you have 3 different endings. If you get 100%, you get the perfect ending. I think with above 70 or above 60, you get the good ending, and otherwise you get the bad ending, okay? And in terms of, like, as I said, the combat is different, the learning systems are different, and there are, certain new status ailments and new things that were introduced. There's no Aeons or summons in this game. You do have, like, these ultimate dress spears, which are, like, overdrives of sorts. And I gotta say, I really like the combat. For the most part, across the board, it has been very praised. A lot of people like the combat of Final Fantasy X too. And let's get into some of the other aspects of the game. So there are a lot more linearity in this game. Actually, it's non-linear. That's what I meant to say. Like, 10 is very linear until you get to the airship, and then you get more freedom to do what you want. In this game, you get to like roam around the map with your airship. You get to choose your missions, and you are pretty much very free throughout the whole game to explore. And you have the main game, and then you have a lot of side missions. And side missions will increase your completion rates. They will give you a lot of dress spears, accessories and garment grids. There's a lot of, benefits of doing them. just going through the main missions is actually not plausible. I think you really have to do them in a lot of ways. Otherwise, you're gonna get really, dumpstered by a lot of the bosses inside the game. That's my opinion. And there are a lot of alternative dungeons and bosses that actually offer quite a lot of difficulty. I didn't end up going through them because I just didn't want to grind the game. Although there's a new game plus, which levels carry over, dress spears carry over, items carry over. So there's that, and that's actually pretty nice. So if you want to go if you really like the combat, I don't see any problem of, playing it through twice or thrice actually. But there is a problem that there are a lot of these things, like in very many old JRPGs, that if you didn't talk to this bum on the street on chapter 2, he would fuck you over on chapter 4, and there was like these ridiculous things that you had to do, because the game is broken down to 5 chapters, and you had to do certain things on certain chapter, get the complete perfect ending. So basically you have to play the game through with a walkthrough for the most part if you want to go for the 100% run. So basically what I would maybe suggest is just play without walkthroughs the first game, a playthrough, and then do the full complete run afterwards. It's easier that way. And there are some, different choices that you can make inside the game. They will have different impacts. And there's actually a lot of, in terms of alternative things, as I said, there's 3 alternative endings also. So that's kind of cool. And something which is somewhat unheard of in Final Fantasy series prior to this game. And actually, I want to talk about some of the world a bit. So a lot of assets were used from the previous game. You will be visiting all of these old locations. There are some new locations that you will be seeing in this game, but for the most part I think that they kind of went pretty cheap. There are these dungeons, but the dungeons use the same tiles, they use the same assets and almost identical looking, which was very sloppy in my point of view. It gave a very cheap meaning to the game. I mean, I think there was like a third of the team working on 10-2 versus 10, and the budget may have been like twice as small, and also like it only took them a year to make. And I think when the game came out, a lot of people were very torn with the game, to be honest, and I was still kind of liking it. I mean, I literally started playing this game 4 times, and on the 4th time now on PC I actually completed. I played it finally through, okay? Other times I never really got the time, or stopped, or sold my console, or whatever was the reasoning. And to be honest, I think that the story of the game is quite bad. So it continues where 10 left off, so spoilers. If you haven't played 10 yet, pause the video now and come back. So as we saw, Tidus went to the other realm, so to speak. In 10, he was gone, Yuna was heartbroken, and it was a very emotional ending in End of 10. And now, in premise of 10-2, there is this spear, which are like these sort of movies, and it tells like a bit of a clip of a person who is imprisoned, and Yuna believes that, oh, this might be Tidus, and it essentially is, how can I reconnect with Tidus? How can I find him again? And that's pretty much the story. And you have a new character coming in, Riku and Yuna reprising their roles, and you have Pain, the 3rd girl. And this is actually the first female all lineup in Final Fantasy, and in 15 we obviously had first full male lineup. I kind of like that there's have to be like both of them, and there are a lot of interesting and sexual things, I guess, in the Japanese version of the game. And there is, by the way, a Japanese dub available also on the game, by the way. I played it on English, I don't know why. I guess because I played 10 also in English, so I guess I was used to the sounds. And I did find them actually quite bad. I think the casting choices were good, but some of the translations and the dialogues were definitely changed on the English version to make more sense for the Western audience. Some of the people working on this game definitely made the remarks that this was truly, culturally much more influenced by Japan than any other Final Fantasy game prior to this. And in so many ways, as I said, going back to the story of the game, it really didn't have like a proper plot, okay? It was a bunch of side missions and character developments, but in the end of the day, the story was shit. Okay, there was this ancient weapon known as Wegnagun, which, you know, they're trying to find, which could destroy Spira, and somehow Tidus was involved with that, and that's pretty much the fucking story. Yes, there will be an ending where you will be seeing will Yuna would actually re-meet with Tidus or not, and this obviously will be based on which ending you will have. And there's also the last mission, which is also involved in these HD remasters, which is this sort of a DLC. Horrible gameplay. I just, you know, went to YouTube and watched the cutscenes, and that takes 2 years after the game of Final Fantasy Ten Tsū. And then there's also an audio drama, which is included on the HD remaster, which is the last ending, actually, where in this version Tidus breaks up with Yuna. Yuna gets a new boyfriend. I mean, oh my god, that was so bad. I mean, because Tidus and Yuna relationship is so magical in so many ways. I think that it's one of the most biggest romances that is ever portrayed in Final Fantasy and in gaming all. And then you kind of like make them break up. Is so fucking odd. And I think that Ten Tsū, it's even hard to me to actually consider it canon in a lot of ways. I particularly didn't like any of the endings. The true ending, the 100% ending, is the best one, but even that, the very ending scene just felt so odd to me and very out of place. And especially the last mission, where the characters' behavior was so changed that they became like this sort of mature and very reflective, and like having this mindset that our paths may never cross again, that, you know, our journey is over. I thought that was extremely sad in some way, and I'm emotionally very, very torn apart how I feel about these endings. I'm so... There's a part of me that is so sad, part of me is very confused. I don't know how to, you know, deal with these emotions, because 10 was such a beautiful game from start to finish. It was a grand fantasy game. It was a story, a pilgrim story. I think one of the best stories ever told in Final Fantasy, to be honest. And 10-2 is nothing really close to a grand fantasy. As I said, it uses the same assets. A lot of the story and the characters, they're not really that interesting. There's not any like major plot twists. And the graphics are there. There are some good cinematics there and there, but overall, I mean, I have to say that I was a bit disappointed by the ending of the game, especially when you have the chance to write multiple endings, and then you like do like a follow-up novel, and then you do the DLC, and then you do the drama CD. I mean, I don't know, that actually reminds me quite a lot of Final Fantasy 15, where there had to be a movie, anime, and everything, you know, side products. No, I don't think that those should be part of the main product, especially like dictating the ending. These should be like spin-off stories. And actually the level design of Last Mission was actually kind of cool. It's this sort of a tower of sorts. And I was very baffled by the idea that they didn't decide to use this in the main game and put some random ass shit in the DLC, actually, because as I said, a lot of the assets, the dungeons and everything felt kind of boring, because it felt a lot of lazy work, because they didn't really... They used the same monsters too. I mean, they created a couple of new bosses, but for the most part, a lot of rehashing the old content, and it felt like playing the new Dishonored game, the standalone game, which was practically like recircling old material for the most part, and it felt like a bit of a cash grab. But I mean, it's still a good game, because you are getting 10 and 10-2 in the same bundle, okay? And, you know, maybe you don't want to play 10-2, maybe you just want to see the true ending, and that's all you really need. That's the reason I played the game, to see the ending. And yeah, I got a bit also dragged into the combat. There's, you know, cool grinding aspect to it. But I just, after 50 hours on it, I was, okay, maybe this is enough, and I'm kind of done with it, and I don't want to play the game again, because the same thing that happened with me when I played through on Final Fantasy 15 is that the combat system will be fun only for a certain period of time, and then you just totally get burnout on the game, okay? And that's why replaythroughs are really bad in general. So maybe I wanna touch the game again, in 10 years. But I've seen the endings already, so I don't really see a lot of point. And I've always been a story-driven player. I'm always interested in the story. I hardly play games just because of the game mechanics. It has to be really fun in order to me to actually play it. But it's not a bad game by any stretch of imagination, but it's not the same experience as 10. It doesn't feel like a Final Fantasy game in a sorts. It feels like a weird spin-off made by fans or something like that, and maybe just wanted to capitalize on the fact of 10 was a very successful game. But for me, maybe even consider the 10's ending to be the real legit one. It lacked the drama, it lacked the intensity, it lacked the twists. It has pretty much no value. It's just there to see some weird character relations, and you don't even see the Waka and Kimari and Aaron and all these other guys that much. They don't really play almost any new element. And the new girl, Pain, was actually, I loved her visual design, but everything else about her was quite boring. There was not much to her character. It was kind of snarky bitch of sorts. Not really a bitch, that's maybe a bit of harsh depiction of her, but she was kind of bland, to be honest. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I have to say about this game. And next up, I'm gonna be playing the 13 trilogy and some Tales games that I got caught up with. And if you have any questions about the game, you can leave them on the comment section below, because I know there are a lot of bugs and weird shit that you have to do. There are things that I did forget to mention. There are a lot of mini games in this one, and quite high variety of them, but none of them really were that good. I wish they would have brought Village Ball back, because that was actually one of the best, mini games of all time in Final Fantasy series. Not many people agree with that statement, but I do. And, some of them were really annoying. Thankfully, some of them were somewhat easy to do, or optional at least. But anyhow, I appreciate you watching and sticking out this long. And I will see you guys next time on the next review.